Hey guys, my name is Galina. In this video, we're going to be talking about different mistakes that lash artists can make initially and what you can do to avoid them. So we have actually on our Instagram, we get a lot of messages where lash artists ask us for feedback on their work and they send us their work to evaluate it. So with their permission, we have taken a few of those lash artists' work. It's of course anonymous, and we're going to show you what mistakes they have made. So hopefully you guys can take some value from this video and apply it to your own work, because typically the mistakes that are going to be made are going to be very similar from lash artist to lash artist. So instead of like evaluating you guys one by one, we have decided to compile this information and give it to you guys in form of a video so that you guys can see it and hopefully get some value out of it. Okay, so also if you're interested for us to evaluate your work, please be sure to send us pictures or videos of your work, and we will be sure to include it in our next video. Or the other thing that we could do is write you back individually with some, feedback on different things that you could potentially improve. So also, please be sure to let us know if you find this video helpful, because it's going to help us to let us know if we should make more of these types of videos for you guys in the future. Okay, so if you haven't already subscribed, be sure to do so. This helps us out a lot as well. All right, so let's get into this. The first lash artist mistake that we see here, this lash artist actually, it looks like they started out in the outer corners, which is something that typically a lot of lash artists tend to do. They'll start out in the middle or in the outer corners, and then they're going to gradually go towards the inner corners. But towards the end of the set, they're going to be like gassing out a little bit, getting stressed. The client is getting stressed, and so they're going to end up kind of giving up on the inner corners. And so what happens is that the inner corners look a little bit unfinished. So as you guys can see in this picture, the inner corners definitely look a little bit unfinished. So what I would recommend is to start with those inner corners. So for this particular lash artist, I can see that the outer corners are actually really well done. The direction is not bad, but the inner corners are kind of a mess. The direction is not so good, and the length is a little bit too long for the inner corners. For the inner corners, we generally recommend 5 to 8 millimeters, not more than 8 millimeters, because the lashes in the inner corners are really weak and short typically, and so it's much better if you do inner corners that are fairly short. It's going to look more seamless, it's going to blend in better, the client is not going to have any discomfort, and it's just much safer for the overall health of the client's lashes. All right, so that's what I would recommend for this particular client. There's also a little bit of gaps, as you can see on the client's right eye. There's a little bit of gaps, so I would have probably encouraged the lash artist to fill up those gaps, because it looks a little bit full in certain areas. In other areas it looks a little less full, but it's not terrible. If the client is an experienced client, they might notice and they might say something. However, if it's someone that's doing their lashes for the first time, if it's a novice client, they might not even notice, and they might just be so happy they just have their lashes done that they don't necessarily care about the fact that it's not perfect. So that's what I would say for this particular work. But overall, it's a pretty decent set, and it's normal to have these types of little these little things to work on. Everyone goes through it. It's totally normal. It doesn't make someone a bad artist. It doesn't mean you should give up. Like, that's why we're actually doing these videos, is to show you that everyone goes through that and everyone struggles through it. Unfortunately, not a lot of lash artists have the stamina to go through this learning phase, because that's what's the hardest. Once you figure out all the movements, all the little tricks, then it becomes autopilot, and most of your sets, 90% of your sets, will end up looking great. But initially, these are the issues that tend to come up. Okay, so now let's move on to photo number 2. So in this particular set, you can see that the lash artist filled up the set really nicely. Like, it looks like most of the lashes have been lashed, which is really good. It looks like she's put on a lot of effort into it. However, to me, it looks like the mapping is not on point at all, because the inner corners seem to be almost the same length as the middle of the eye, and the almost the same as the outer corners. So it doesn't look like it's been mapped out really well. So that's something I would definitely work on, is to just try and analyze the client's face and try to see which type of set would be appropriate for this particular client. We actually have a mapping course, which I'm going to link below so that you guys can check it out. It's not, we try to make all our online courses fairly affordable so that everyone can get this knowledge and help you guys out as much as we possibly can. So that's what I would probably work on. And then the other thing I see here in the set is that the lash extensions seem to be a little bit too close to the eyelid. Normally it should be 0.5 millimeters to 1 millimeters. The extension should be away from the eyelid, sorry. But in this case, it definitely looks like it's almost glued to the eyelid. The picture is not very clear, so it's a little bit hard to see, but that's what it looks like to me. I could be wrong. I would love to know what you guys think. Let me know below if you guys agree with me about this picture or not. But this is what it looks like to me. Additionally, I see on the left eye, the inner corner, there seems to be one lash that's kind of like sticking out. So this is a little bit of a problem with direction, but overall the direction in this set is not terrible. It's not great, but it's not very bad. So overall it's like, you know, you could see it's in the beginning stages, but it's getting there. It's getting to be really decent. So that's what I would recommend for this particular artist, is to work on mapping, to put the lashes further away from the eyelid, like about 0.5 millimeters, and to work on the inner corners, to start with the inner corners, because the inner corners are the hardest usually for beginners, for lash artists, for beginner lash artists. So that's where I would begin. That's where I would start. Now, let's move on to the third picture, the third artist that was brave enough to send their work so that we can give her some critical feedback, critical analysis, and hopefully help her out, him out, and you guys out as well. So from what we can see here, overall, it looks like a decent set. What I like is that the outer corners seem to be really full. So it does appear like the artist started to work either from the middle or from the outer once again, because it seems to be really nice and full. But then as you move towards the inner corner, the direction started to suffer and it's much less full once again. And so it does appear like the client seems to have very sparse inner corners, and the overall look seems to be kind of unfinished as well. Additionally, I can see a mapping issue here as well, because the client has a little bit of hooded eyelids, not very much, but just a little bit. And so what happens is the curl that was picked for this particular client is a little bit too curly, in my opinion. I would have picked a C curl or like even a B curl, because it would have been flatter and it wouldn't be like poking into the eyelid necessarily. So that's what I would say here. I would have picked a different curl, and I would have started to work with the inner corner. So that's what I would recommend for this artist, is to start with the hardest and finish out with the thing that you have least trouble with, because when you're starting initially you have more energy, you're more excited, you're like, let's do this, I have just had my coffee. But then as you're moving on and time goes by and your clients gets fidgety and like you're starting to panic that they're going to want to leave, that's when you kind of start to give up a little bit and your work can start to suffer. So start with the inner corners and then finish to the outer corners, yes. So that's what I would say for this particular work. So this was part 1 of this analysis. Now we're gonna do a part 2, which we're gonna put out on Friday. So be sure to check in on Friday because we're gonna have part 2 of this, because we have had a lot of people send in images of their work, and so we just want to give you guys as much feedback, as much information, as much helpful advice. Hopefully it is helpful. Again, as I said, I would love to know and for you guys to let me know. Sorry, I was just practicing. I just realized I had a strip of lashes on my hand. So I would love to know if you guys found this helpful, and if you want us to do more videos like this for you guys, please let us know. Additionally, if you haven't subscribed already, please be sure to subscribe and share this video with any of your lash artist friends that might find this helpful as well. So we'll see you guys on Friday with the continuation of this series.